Squaddies, I need you to watch this clip before you watch anything else this week, because it is one of the clearest examples I have ever seen of what happens when a member of the public dares to correct the narrative live on air and gets silenced for it.
That's what we're asking. What do you think? Have your say. Give us a call. 0207 862 2222 is the number. We're going to get straight to those calls and speak to Meghan in London.
Is this an exclusive?
Meghan, hello.
Hello.
Oh, right.
Oh, I don't detect an American accent, so not the Meghan.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I wanted... Hello? Hello?
We can hear you, Meghan. Say what you would like to say.
No, okay. I'd like to say that Harry is he's a favourite prince. He's a favourite in the royal family. He's so loving, caring, and he's like his mum. And also, I don't know why they're talking about they're making money off the royal family's name. His uncle Andrew sold secrets to foreign people.
Well,
And
hold
he's-
on. Wait, Meghan. That is being investigated.
Yep.
So nothing has been proven. It is alleged that there was mishandling potentially of information there, Meghan. But I see what you're coming from. The argument against what you're saying, though, is that he did release a book called Spare, which has direct connections to the fact that he was or is the King's son. He still goes by Prince Harry. She goes by the Duchess of Sussex. They kind of are making their money out of the legacy of the fact that they are part of the royal family. And when I say that, I mean the family as in bloodline.
Of course not. It's just their name. Of course they're not. The royal families, they're going to be getting nearly 100 million to keep them. And what are they doing? Harry, he has to make a living. No one's supporting them. What do you expect them to do? What royal names are they using? It's just their names. I don't understand.
Whoa, hold on.
What did they say about the royal?
Well, hold on,
Meghan.
Meghan.
They didn't say anything.
If you
bad
could just
about the
pause
royals.
there.
They were just saying, oh, the royal goes
Pause.
to the press
Hello?
and gives all their
Hello?
stories and
Hello?
lies about about them and their stories. All they're doing is speaking his truth. Look how Meghan is treated.
All right, Meghan,
every
thank
single
you.
day.
I don't think we can have a conversation if you keep speaking.
If you just-
treated in the way.
Thank you so much for your call, Meghan.
Quite
Thank you.
impressive. That was all on
Was
one
incredible.
breath.
Meghan, thank you for your call, but a conversation does have to be two ways.
A fan of Harry.
This week on Channel 5, presenter Storm Huntley and her panel, including Alexis Ohanian Sr. Yes, that Alexis Ohanian, the one who spends his time trashing the Sussexes for clout, spent a segment doing what these panels always do. Recycling the same tired, debunked talking points about Prince Harry and Meghan, Duchess of Sussex. Titles, money, trust, the usual playlist. And then a caller named Meghan rang in, and within about 90 seconds she said more truth than the entire panel had said in the previous 10 minutes combined. So, naturally, they cut her off. Stick with me, because we're going to go through exactly what was said, exactly what was left out, and exactly why a woman calmly correcting the record on live television was apparently too dangerous to let finish a sentence. So here's the setup. Before Meghan ever got put through, the panel had already spent several minutes building a narrative. And it's the same three-legged stool the anti-Sussex commentary always stands on, so let's name each leg, because once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. Leg 1, the claim that Harry and Meghan chose to keep their titles, as though that was some greedy, calculated decision they made unprompted. What the panel conveniently left out, and what has been reported and stated directly by Harry himself in the Netflix documentary, is that the Sussexes offered to give the titles back. The firm said no. Sit with that for a second. The institution that supposedly can't stand the idea of Harry and Meghan trading on royal status had the opportunity to simply take the titles back and chose not to. Why would that be? I'll let you connect those dots yourselves, but I have a theory, and it involves the monarchy needing the Sussexes to remain useful punching bags rather than private citizens who've quietly walked away. Leg 2, the "they can't be trusted" narrative, built entirely on Harry's memoir and the couple's interviews. But here's what never gets acknowledged on these panels. The royal rota has been running negative, planted stories about the Sussexes for years, sourced from unnamed palace insiders, dressed up as biography, dressed up as reporting, and printed as fact without a single named source willing to put their reputation behind it. Spare and the interviews aren't the opening shot. They're the response. They're the receipts. When one side controls the narrative for years through anonymous briefings, and the other side finally puts their name to their own story, only one of those approaches is actually accountable. And it isn't the one the tabloids prefer. Leg 3, and this is the one that really gets me, the insinuation that Meghan uses her title for business gain. Categorically false, and demonstrably so once you apply the standard to anyone else in that family. When Prince Edward briefly stepped back from full royal duties, nobody clutched their pearls about his title. Sarah, Duchess of York, has published multiple books using her title while being openly critical of aspects of the institution, and funnily enough, the outrage machine never so much as hummed. So why is it that the only person who gets accused of monetizing a title she's never actually used commercially? Meghan doesn't put Duchess of Sussex on Netflix credits or Instagram bios. Squaddies, you know this, is the one biracial woman who married into the family. I'll leave that question hanging, because I think you already know the answer. So that's the loaded context Meghan was walking into when she got through to Storm Huntley live on air. And to her enormous credit, she didn't waste a second of her airtime. She opened by saying something that should not be controversial in the slightest, that Harry is, by most public accounts, one of the more warm and approachable members of that family, someone who by temperament takes after his mother. That's not a wild opinion. That's an observation shared by a huge number of people on both sides of this debate, whether they admit it or not. Then Meghan pivoted straight into the money question, and this is where it got interesting, because she brought up Prince Andrew. And look, the panel jumped on this immediately, insisting that the allegations against Andrew are still under investigation. Nothing's been proven. Fine, technically true. But Meghan's broader point stands regardless of where that specific situation lands. There is a colossal, gaping double standard in how this family's finances and conduct get scrutinized, depending on which member we're discussing. Andrew lived rent-free, sometimes literally, off public sympathy and firm protection for years, despite scandal after scandal attached to his name. Harry and Meghan, who take zero public funding for their post-royal life, get raked over the coals for daring to have jobs. The presenter tried to pull well, he still uses the title Prince Harry, she's still the Duchess of Sussex, so they're profiting off the bloodline line. And Meghan's response deserves to be replayed in classrooms. She essentially said, it's just their names. It is genuinely wild to me that we've reached a point in this discourse where a grown man and woman using the names they were legally given is treated as some kind of scandal. Nobody accused Sarah Ferguson of profiting off the bloodline for keeping Duchess of York on her book covers. Nobody accused Princess Anne of profiting off anything when she has taken on paid patronages and roles over the decades. The rule, apparently, only applies selectively. Then Meghan delivered the line that I think is the actual thesis of this entire call, and it's worth sitting with. The family is reportedly set to receive close to £100 million in sovereign grant funding, largely tied to Crown estate profits, much of which the public argues should never have been treated as a private cash cow in the first place. And yet Harry, who takes none of that, gets accused of cashing in for building an actual career. And that's exactly when the call got cut. Not because Meghan was being abusive, not because she was rambling, because she was making a case the panel had no comeback for, and the easiest way to win an argument you can't win on facts is to stop the person from finishing it. Now, squaddies, I want to zoom out here, because this isn't an isolated incident. This is a pattern we've documented on this channel over and over. Pro-Sussex callers, pro-Sussex commentators, pro-Sussex voices in general get platformed just long enough to be used as a foil. And the second they start actually dismantling the premise of the segment, the mic goes quiet, the topic changes, or the panel talks over them until the point gets lost in crosstalk. Compare that to how anti-Sussex voices get treated on the exact same panel shows. They can go on for minutes uninterrupted, repeating claims that have been debunked publicly, on the record over and over. And there's no, well, hold on, let's fact-check that in real time, energy applied to them the way it was applied to Meghan the second she brought up receipts. This is the tabloid machine in its purest form. It's not really about balance. It's about maintaining a narrative that keeps the Sussexes as a profitable villain arc for British media, because outrage drives clicks, drives ratings, drives newspaper sales far more reliably than a boring, accurate story that says couple leaves toxic work environment, builds independent life, doesn't take public money. That headline doesn't sell papers. Money-grabbing traitors exploit royal name does. So guess which version keeps getting run. And I want to be really clear about something, because the derangers in the replies always try this move. Nobody is saying Harry and Meghan are above criticism. Nobody is saying every single decision they've made has been perfect. What we're saying, what Meghan was saying, what this entire channel exists to say, is that the criticism needs to be applied consistently. If titles are fair game, they're fair game for every royal who's ever used one commercially. If trust is the standard, it has to account for who's been briefing anonymously against family members for over a decade. If money is the issue, then £100 million of taxpayer-adjacent funding deserves at least the same scrutiny as two people building a media company from scratch. Here's the thing that really gets me about this clip, and it's the reason I wanted to make this video in the first place. Meghan wasn't a paid spokesperson. She wasn't a PR plant. She was, by every indication, an ordinary member of the public who picked up the phone because she was tired of watching the same lies repeated as fact on national television. And she came prepared. She was calm. She was factual. She had her receipts lined up in order, and the response from the professionals in that studio, the people whose literal job is to host a balanced conversation, was to talk over her and then cut her off entirely. That should tell you everything about how fragile this narrative actually is. When one caller with no media training and no script can walk into a hostile panel and dismantle 3 separate false premises in under 2 minutes, using nothing but publicly available facts, that's not a caller who got cut off for rambling. That's a caller who won, and the House didn't like it. The replies to this clip on social media have been overwhelmingly on Meghan's side, and it's not hard to see why. People are exhausted by this format. They're exhausted by presenters who ask, "Have your say," and then don't actually let people say it. They're exhausted by panels stacked with the same handful of professional Sussex critics dressed up as neutral commentary. And every single time a clip like this goes viral, it chips away a little more at the credibility of the outlets running this playbook. So here's what I want to leave you with, squaddies. Meghan didn't need a title, a PR team, or a media law degree to beat that panel. She needed facts, composure, and about 90 seconds. Imagine what happens when more people start showing up to these conversations that prepared. If this video helped you understand exactly what happened in that call and why it matters, do me a favor. Hit subscribe, because I'm covering every one of these moments as they happen, breaking down exactly what the panels get wrong and exactly what they hope you never notice. Drop a comment and tell me what part of Meghan's call hit hardest for you. And as always, stay sharp, stay informed, and I'll see you in the next one.